Guys, tonight we're stepping into the sun-baked plains of ancient Mesopotamia, where massive ziggurats, those towering stepped pyramids, reach for the sky like the ambitions of a civilization obsessed with the divine. Picture yourself in Uruk, 3000 BCE. Dust swirling around your sandals as you crane your neck to see the peak of a ziggurat glinting under a merciless sun. These aren't just buildings, they're bridges to the gods, each brick whispering stories of devotion, sweat, and a touch of cosmic swagger. Fair warning, if you tried climbing one without a priest's blessing, you probably won't survive this. Those stairs are steep, and the gods don't love tourists. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off tonight. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in the heart of Uruk, one of the world's first cities, where the air smells of baked earth and incense. The ziggurat looms before you, a colossal stack of mud brick platforms, each level smaller than the last, like a staircase built for giants. It's not just a pretty skyline feature, it's the city's pulse, tying mortals to the divine. The Babylonians, or more accurately, their Sumerian predecessors, kicked off this architectural trend around 4000 BCE, making ziggurats the ultimate power move in Mesopotamia. Mainstream history tells us these structures were temples, not tombs, like Egyptian pyramids, designed to host rituals that kept the gods happy and the cosmos spinning. Without them, Babylonians believed floods, famines, or worse, could swallow their world faster than you can say, bad omen. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some clay tablets hint ziggurats doubled as ancient observatories. Priests allegedly stargaze from the top, tracking planets like Jupiter. Sorry, they called it Marduk's star, to predict divine moods. Imagine squinting at the night sky, hoping your math doesn't anger a thunder god. Historians still argue whether ziggurats were primarily religious or had practical uses like storage or defense. The debate's spicy because no one's found a ziggurat user manual etched in cuneiform. You wander closer, dodging merchants, hawking barley beer, and kids chasing stray goats. The ziggurat's base is wider than a modern football field. Its walls slope to keep the structure stable. Every brick was hand-molded from river clay, baked in kilns or sun-dried until it could withstand centuries. You notice workers hauling reed mats, their chatter drowned by the clink of copper tools. Building this took thousands of hands, free laborers, not slaves, despite what your high school textbook might have implied. The community poured their soul into it, believing their city's survival hinged on pleasing Anu, the sky god, or Inanna, the feisty goddess of love and war. Speaking of Inanna, her temple crowns this ziggurat, painted in blues and reds that pop against the beige brick. You smirk, imagining the priests up there, probably overcharging for blessings, like a modern-day souvenir shop. Joke number 1. If Inanna's temple ran out of an incense, did they just burn their laundry to keep the vibes holy? The colors fade as you squint upward, the summit shimmering in the heat. It's not just tall, it's sacred, a literal stairway to heaven. In a world where gods micromanage everything from crops to battles, you pause, wiping sweat from your brow. Mesopotamia's not exactly air-conditioned. The ziggurat's shadow stretches over you, cooling the ground just enough to make you linger. It's more than architecture. It's a statement. Cities like Uruk, Ur, and later Babylon built these to scream, "We're favored by the gods, and don't you forget it." But why ziggurats? Why not domes or spires? The answer lies in the land itself. Mesopotamia's flat as a pancake. No mountains to inspire awe or house deities. So, humans made their own peaks, stacking ambition one brick at a time. As you circle the base, you spot a priest in a fringed robe, muttering prayers. He glares. Guess you're not on the VIP list. Joke 2. Think he's mad because you didn't pre-book your Ziggurat tour on clay tablet. Calm. The truth is, access was restricted. Only the elite, priests, kings, or the occasional lucky scribe could ascend. For regular folks like you, the ziggurat was a spectacle, a reminder of your place in the cosmic pecking order. Yet, standing here, you feel its pull, a mix of wonder and humility. This is where heaven and earth meet, and you're just a speck in the story. You're still in Uruk, the ziggurat's shadow clinging to you like a cool cloak as the sun blisters the horizon. The structure's not just a skyline flex, it's a love letter to the gods, built to keep them from smiting the city into next week. You squint at the summit, where a shrine glints like a divine Airbnb for deities. Why did the Babylonians pour their sweat and soul into these towers? It's all about cosmic customer service, keeping the gods happy so the Tigris and Euphrates don't turn into a divine tantrum of floods. You shuffle through the dust, dodging a donkey cart piled with reeds, and wonder what kind of devotion drives a whole civilization to stack bricks until they touch the stars. The Babylonians, inheriting Sumerian know-how, saw their gods as moody landlords who demand constant rent in the form of worship. Mainstream history confirms ziggurats were built as sacred platforms, each one dedicated to a patron deity. Marduk in Babylon, Inanna in Uruk, or Nana in Ur. These weren't casual shrines. They were the gods' literal houses, where priests played middleman to ensure divine blessings like good harvests or victory over pesky neighbors. Without a ziggurat, your city was basically flipping the bird at the heavens, and nobody wanted to test how long they'd survive that. The Itemenanki in Babylon, possibly the inspiration for the Tower of Babel, was said to be Marduk's favorite crash pad, standing over 9 meters tall. That's a skyscraper for a people who thought wheelbarrows were high tech. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some cuneiform texts suggest ziggurats were painted in wild colors: blues, reds, even gold, to mimic the heavens, or maybe just to flex on rival cities. Imagine a ziggurat glowing like a Mesopotamian disco ball under moonlight. Historians still argue whether these colors were purely symbolic or if they doubled as a look at us, signal to traders passing by. The debate's tricky since most ziggurats are now crumbly ruins, their paint jobs long gone with the wind. You wander closer to the base, where workers smear bitumen, a tar-like goo, over bricks to waterproof the lower tiers. The smell's like a mix of asphalt and regret, but it's practical. Floods are a constant threat here. You overhear a scribe muttering about appeasing Anu, the sky god who's apparently a stickler for tall temples. The Babylonians believed gods lived in the heavens, but they weren't above popping down for a quick ritual if the setup was fancy enough. Ziggurats were like divine bait, luring gods with high-altitude real estate. Joke 1. Did the gods ever complain about the commute? Or was the view worth the trip? Each ziggurat was a bespoke project, tailored to its city's deity. Inanna's at Uruk, the one you're gawking at, was all about love, war, and fertility. Think of her as the goddess of multitasking. Her priests probably threw parties up top that'd make modern raves look tame, though you're not invited. The whole setup screams intention. Every brick, every stair, every garish paint stroke was a plea for divine favor. You notice a crowd gathering nearby, chanting as a priest hauls a clay tablet skyward. It's probably a prayer for rain, but knowing Mesopotamia, it could also be a divine IOU for last year's barley crop. You step back, the ziggurats bulk, making you feel ant-sized. It's not just about gods, it's about power. A city with a ziggurat was a city that mattered, one the gods supposedly checked in on regularly. But there's a catch. Building these was a logistical nightmare. Thousands of workers, endless clay, and a budget that'd make a king wince. Joke 2. Think the foreman ever yelled, "More bricks," less daydreaming? Or was that just the gods' vibe? The Babylonians didn't care about the cost. To them, the ziggurat was insurance against chaos, a way to keep the universe's wheels greased. As you circle the structure, you spot a kid scratching a game into the dirt. Little clay tokens shaped like sheep. Life hums around the ziggurat, but its presence is a constant reminder. The gods are watching, and they're not big on slackers. You wipe sweat from your neck, the heat making you wish for a Mesopotamian iced latte, and realize this tower isn't just architecture, it's faith made solid, a civilization betting everything on the idea that if you build it, the gods will come. And if they don't, well, you're not sticking around to find out. You're still circling the ziggurat in Uruk, its massive silhouette eating up half the sky as the sun torches the horizon. The air's thick with dust and the sharp tang of bitumen, that tarry glue holding this beast together. You're starting to get why the Babylonians went all in on these towers. But now you're wondering about the grunt work. How did they turn river mud into a monument that screams, "We're tight with the gods"? You dodge a worker hauling a basket of bricks, his face glistening with sweat, and realize this ziggurat isn't just a divine hotline. It's a testament to human grit under a sun that doesn't quit. Mainstream history tells us ziggurats were built with mud bricks, a deceptively simple material that defined Mesopotamian architecture. Clay from the Tigris and Euphrates was mixed with straw, molded, and either sun-dried or kiln-baked to create bricks tougher than your average sandcastle. The great ziggurat of Ur, for example, used millions of these bricks, stacked over years by teams of laborers. It wasn't a weekend DIY project. Entire communities rallied, from farmers to artisans, all pitching in to keep the gods from hitting the cosmic smite button. The process was so central that brickmaking became a sacred art, with some molds stamped with the king's name for extra divine cred. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some ziggurats had built-in drainage systems, with clay pipes channeling rainwater like an ancient plumbing hack. Imagine engineers in 3000 BCE outsmarting floods while you're still yelling at your Wi-Fi router. Historians still argue whether these drainage features were purely practical or if they symbolize the flow of divine blessings. The debate's murky because, well, clay pipes don't exactly come with instruction manuals. You pause near a pile of fresh bricks, each one marked with a reed stylus, probably a tally or a prayer. The workers around you move like a well-oiled machine, hauling clay, mixing straw, and cursing the heat in Sumerian. It's brutal work. The sun's so fierce, you're half convinced it's personal. Joke 1. Think the foreman offered sunscreen, or was burned to a crisp just the employee handbook. Laborers weren't slaves, despite what old Hollywood flicks might suggest. Most were free citizens, paid in barley or beer, which, let's be honest, sounds like a solid deal in 3000 BCE. You watch a team hoist bricks up a ramp, their chants syncing with the rhythm of their steps. The Ziggurat's lower platform is already done, a sprawling base that could swallow a modern mall. Each level shrinks as it rises, like a wedding cake for a very demanding deity. The bricks are laid with precision, slathered with bitumen to seal gaps and fend off floods. You smirk, imagining the architect's pitch. It's eco-friendly, locally sourced, and God-approved. The truth is, mud was Mesopotamia's only abundant resource. No stone quarries or forests here, just clay and stubbornness. As you wander, you notice reeds woven into the structure's core, adding flexibility to withstand earthquakes. It's clever, like ancient rebar, but it's not foolproof. Cracks already spiderweb some older bricks, a reminder that even divine projects have maintenance issues. You overhear a scribe muttering about kiln misfires, ruining a batch. Guess quality control was a thing even back then. Joke 2. Did they have a Mesopotamian Yelp for bad brick suppliers, or just pray for better luck? The scale hits you as you step back, squinting at the half-built upper tiers. This isn't just construction, it's devotion. Every brick a plea for cosmic stability. But it's also a flex. Uruk's Ziggurat screams, "Our gods love us more than yours." You spot a kid nearby, tossing a clay brick like a toy, oblivious to the weight of its purpose. Life buzzes around you. Merchants haggle, priests chant, and somewhere, a donkey brays like it's auditioning for a Mesopotamian sitcom. You wipe sweat from your brow, wishing for a breeze that'll never come. The workers don't stop, their hands caked with clay, their eyes fixed on the next brick. This ziggurat's a miracle of effort, but it's fragile too. Mud doesn't last forever, and neither do empires. For now, though, it stands, a towering bet that the gods are watching. You turn away, the heat making you dizzy, and wonder how many hands shaped this dream before the sun baked it into history. You're now at the base of Uruk's Ziggurat, the air heavy with the scent of dust and distant incense. The structure looms above, its stepped platforms like a ladder to the stars, daring you to imagine climbing it. Your sandals scuff the baked earth as you eye the wide, sloping stairway cutting through the tiers. It's not just a path, it's a sacred gauntlet, each step a ritual act to get you closer to the gods. You're tempted to sneak a climb, but one look at the priests' stern faces reminds you, this isn't a public park. The stairs are for the holy, not the curious, and you're definitely not on the guest list. Mainstream history confirms ziggurat stairways were designed for ceremonial processions, not casual strolls. In cities like Ur or Babylon, these grand staircases, sometimes over 100 steps, led to the summit shrine, where priests performed rituals to appease deities like Nana or Marduk. The great ziggurat of Ur, for instance, had 3 converging stairways, each meticulously planned to symbolize the ascent from earth to heaven. Only the elite, priests, kings, or sacred attendants, could make the climb, their every step a performance of devotion tool meant to keep the cosmos from unraveling. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some cuneiform texts hint that certain steps were inscribed with prayers or God's names, turning the climb into a literal chant underfoot. Imagine tripping on a syllable and hoping Marduk doesn't take it personally. Historians still argue whether these inscriptions were common or reserved for special ziggurats. The evidence is spotty. Erosion and looters didn't exactly preserve the fine print. You linger at the stairway's base, where the first step is wider than your living room. It's built to intimidate, to make you feel small before you even start. You picture priests in fringed robes gliding upward, carrying offerings, maybe a clay jar of beer or a basket of dates to sweet-talk the gods. The steps are steep, no handrails, and you're suddenly grateful you're not hauling a goat up there. Joke 1. Think they had a no flip-flops rule, or did the gods just laugh at sprained ankles? Each stairway is flanked by sloped walls, their mud bricks smooth to a sheen that catches the fading sunlight. You notice faint carvings, lions, stars, maybe a crescent moon, etched to honor Nana, Uruk's moon god. The symbols aren't just decor. They're a cosmic GPS, guiding the gods to their penthouse. You smirk, imagining a deity getting lost without them, like a divine Uber driver with a bad signal. The climb wasn't just physical, it was a spiritual marathon. Priests fasted, chanted, and probably sweated buckets to prove their worth before reaching the top. You glance at the crowd below. Merchants, kids, a stray dog sniffing for scraps. They'll never climb these stairs, but they watch, awestruck, as if the ziggurat's magic rubs off just by staring. The stairway's design screams exclusivity, yet it binds the city together. Everyone knows the rituals up top keep the floods at bay, or the crops growing. You catch a whiff of smoke. Someone's burning reeds nearby, and it snaps you back. The ziggurat's not just a building, it's a machine of faith, and these stairs are its engine. You take a step closer, tempted to touch the sun-warmed bricks, but a priest's glare stops you cold. Joke 2. Think he's protecting the stairs, or just mad you didn't RSVP for the divine after-party. The truth is, every step was sacred, a threshold between mortal dust and celestial favor. Some scholars say the number of steps, often 100 or multiples of 7, tied to Babylonian math or star cycles. It's nerdy, but brilliant, like building a spreadsheet in brick form. As the sun dips, the stairway glows, each step a silent promise of connection to something bigger. You feel the weight of it, not just the bricks, but the belief holding them up. The ziggurat's not yours to climb, but standing here, you get it. Every step was a prayer, every climb a gamble that the gods were listening. You turn away, the crowd's hum fading, and wonder what it felt like to stand at the top, one breath away from heaven. You're still at the foot of Uruk's ziggurat, the stairway's shadow stretching over you as twilight softens the heat. The air hums with chants drifting from the summit, where priests are busy running the show. You can't see them from here, but you feel their presence, like the ziggurats got a heartbeat pulsing from its peak. Those stairs you were eyeing, they lead to the elite club of Mesopotamia, where priests hold court, juggling divine demands and earthly power. You crane your neck, imagining what goes on up there. Probably not a casual barbecue, but something way more intense. You're stuck down here with the goats and merchants, but you're dying to know who's calling the shots at the top. Mainstream history tells us ziggurat summits were home to sacred shrines, where priests conducted rituals to keep gods like Inanna or Marduk from throwing cosmic tantrums. The shrine atop Ur's ziggurat, for example, was a small temple, often gilded or painted, where priests offered sacrifices. Think incense, food, or the occasional animal, not Hollywood-style bloodbaths. These rituals weren't just spiritual, they were political. Priests were the city's rock stars, controlling access to the divine, and, by extension, the king's legitimacy. If the gods were happy, the city thrived. If not, well, better start polishing your resume. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some texts suggest priests used ziggurat tops for sacred marriage ceremonies, where a king or priestess symbolically wed a deity to boost fertility. Human, crop, you name it. Picture the gossip in Uruk's markets after that party. Historians still argue whether these rituals were literal or just poetic metaphors. The clay tablets are coy, leaving scholars to bicker over whether it was a divine hookup or just fancy roleplay. You shuffle closer to the ziggurat's base, catching snatches of a priest's chant, something about stars and barley yields. The summit's out of sight, hidden by the ziggurat's stepped tiers, but you imagine it, a platform barely big enough for a shrine, maybe a few priests, and a killer view of Mesopotamia's plains. Up there, priests didn't just pray, they were astronomers, bureaucrats, and spin doctors rolled into one. They read omens in sheep livers or star patterns, deciding if the king should go to war or stockpile grain. You smirk, thinking of them as ancient weathermen, except a bad forecast could tank the whole city. Joke 1. Think they ever predicted cloudy with a chance of divine wrath? The priest's power came from exclusivity. Only they could enter the shrine, where the god statue, often decked in gold and gems, stared back with inlaid eyes. You picture Inanna's statue, all fierce and fabulous, judging every offering. The priests burned myrrh, chanted hymns, and probably overcharged for divine Wi-Fi. Okay, maybe not that last bit, but they controlled the narrative, convincing everyone below that their rituals kept the cosmos spinning. You glance at the crowd, their faces lit with awe, and get it. Those priests were the ultimate gatekeepers. You notice a clay tablet propped near the stairs, etched with cuneiform. It's probably a record of offerings, 10 goats, 100 liters of beer, because priests loved paperwork as much as prayers. Their influence reached beyond the Ziggurat, shaping laws, taxes, even who got the best farmland. Joke 2. Think they had a suggestion box for better miracles, or was feedback a one-way ticket to the river? The truth is, priests were untouchable. Their summit rituals a mix of faith and flex. As night creeps in, the Ziggurat's peak catches the last sunlight, glowing like a beacon. You feel the weight of those unseen priests, their chants weaving Uruk's fate. They weren't just talking to gods, they were running a city from 90 meters up. You step back, the crowd's murmur fading, and wonder what it was like to stand in that shrine, holding the god's attention while the world below held its breath. You're still lingering near Uruk's ziggurat, the night air cooling your skin as stars prick the sky above. The chants from the summit have faded, but the structure's presence hums, its silhouette a dark, stepped mountain against the moon. You're starting to see it, not just as a temple or a priestly penthouse, but as something bigger, a map of the Babylonian universe carved in mud and ambition. Each tier, each angle, feels like it's whispering secrets about how these people saw the cosmos. You shuffle through the dust, dodging a stray reed mat, and wonder how a pile of bricks can hold a whole worldview. Mainstream history tells us ziggurats were designed to reflect Babylonian cosmology. They're stepped platforms symbolizing the layers of existence, earth, sky, and the divine realm. The Itaminanki in Babylon, for instance, was said to have 7 tiers, each possibly tied to a planet or celestial body, like a 3D model of the heavens. This wasn't just architecture, it was a statement that the city mirrored the universe's order, with the ziggurat as its axis. The Babylonians believed their gods orchestrated the stars, and building a ziggurat was like pinning their city to the cosmic GPS, ensuring divine attention. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some cuneiform texts suggest ziggurats were aligned with cardinal directions or solstices, turning them into giant sundials or star trackers. Imagine priests squinting at shadows to schedule rituals, like ancient nerds with a clay protractor. Historians still argue whether these alignments were intentional or just happy accidents. The evidence is shaky. Erosion and urban sprawl make it hard to confirm if Uruk's ziggurat was a celestial compass or just really good at looking pretty. You circle the base, your eyes tracing the ziggurat's tiers. Each platform, it feels like a step up the cosmic ladder. Earth at the bottom, gods at the top, and maybe a murky underworld below. You picture the Babylonians mapping their world onto this structure. The base for mortals, the middle for priests, the summit for deities. It's like they built a PowerPoint of their beliefs, except with bricks and a lot more sweat. Joke 1. Think they ever forgot a tier and had to pitch a 5 heavens is fine, right? The ziggurat's colors, faint traces of blue and red, catch the moonlight, hinting at its cosmic vibe. Scholars say these hues mimic the sky or precious gems, tying the structure to the god's starry domain. You smirk, imagining the paint crew arguing over shades like it's a Mesopotamian HGTV episode. The design wasn't random. Every angle, from the sloped walls to the precise stairways, echoed Babylonian math. Base 60, the root of our modern minutes and seconds. Their nerdiness paid off. Ziggurats stood for centuries, defying floods and quakes. You pause, feeling the ground's faint tremor. Probably just a cart rolling by, but it reminds you of the Babylonian fear of chaos. Their myths spoke of a primordial void, Tiamat's watery mess, tamed by Marduk to create order. The ziggurat feels like a middle finger to that chaos, a human attempt to anchor the universe. You notice a priest nearby, sketching stars on a clay tablet, his face lit by a flickering lamp. He's probably charting Jupiter's path, tying it to the king's next big decision. It's wild how a brick tower could double as a cosmic observatory. Joke 2. Think they had a Star of the Month club, or was every night a divine PowerPoint? The ziggurat's cosmic role wasn't just priestly busywork. It shaped daily life. Farmers sowed crops by star cycles, merchants planned trade routes, and kings waged wars based on omens read from the summit. You step back, the ziggurat looming larger in the dark, its tears like a frozen hymn to the stars. It's not just a building, it's a blueprint of how the Babylonians saw their place in the grand scheme. Small, but bold enough to build their own slice of heaven. You're still in Uruk, the Ziggurats bulk, now a shadowy giant, under a star-strewn sky. The nights cooled the air, but the city hums, merchants haggling, kids laughing, and somewhere, a lute plucking a sleepy tune. The ziggurat isn't just a cosmic postcard or a priestly clubhouse. It's the heartbeat of Uruk, anchoring the city like a divine Wi-Fi tower. You wander closer, weaving through a crowd, bartering barley and beads, and realize this massive structure shapes everything around it. Trade, faith, even who gets bragging rights in Mesopotamia. It's not just a temple, it's the city's engine, pumping life into every dusty street. Mainstream history confirms ziggurats were central to Mesopotamian urban life, acting as economic and social hubs. The Great Ziggurat of Ur, for example, wasn't just a shrine. Its surrounding complex housed granaries, workshops, and scribal schools, employing hundreds. Priests managed these operations, redistributing goods like barley or wool to workers, making the ziggurat a proto-city hall. It drew people in, farmers offering tithes, traders seeking blessings, even kings flexing their piety. A city without a ziggurat was like a smartphone without a signal, technically functional, but nobody's impressed. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some clay tablets record ziggurats hosting festivals where thousands feasted, danced, and probably got tipsy on barley beer. Picture a Mesopotamian Coachella, but with more goats and fewer influencers. Historians still argue whether these festivals were purely religious or sneaky propaganda to keep the masses loyal. The tablets don't spill all the tea, leaving scholars to debate if the priests were holy DJs or just really good at crowd control. You pause near a stall selling clay figurines, tiny ananas with exaggerated curves. The vendor winks, claiming their ziggurat approved for luck. You smirk, wondering if the priests get a cut of the merch sales. The ziggurat looms behind, its base ringed by storerooms, bulging with grain and oil. These weren't just divine offerings. They were the city's savings account, doled out to laborers or traded with distant cities. You picture priests as ancient accountants, tallying jars of sesame oil on clay tablets. Joke 1. Think they ever lost a tablet and blamed it on a divine audit? The ziggurat's pull is magnetic. You watch a farmer lug a sack of barley to the base, his offering for a good harvest. Nearby, scribes scribble contracts, their reed pens scratching like ASMR for nerds. The ziggurat made Uruk a hotspot, drawing talent, potters, weavers, even poets spinning tales of gods and floods. It was a status symbol, too. A towering ziggurat meant your city had the gods' VIP pass. You glance at the crowd, their faces lit by oil lamps, and feel the buzz. This place isn't just alive, it's thriving. And the Ziggurats why. You step closer, the structure's shadow swallowing you. Its walls are etched with faint symbols, lions, stars, reminding everyone who's boss, the gods, via their priestly middlemen. The Ziggurats' economic clout gave priests serious sway. They could make or break a merchant with a single divine decree. Joke 2. Think they had a blessings loyalty program, or was one bad omen enough to tank your business? The truth is, the Ziggurat was a machine, turning faith into power, grain into wealth, and Uruk into a legend. As you wander, you spot a kid sketching the Ziggurat in the dirt, its tears wobbly but recognizable. It's a reminder. This structure shaped how people saw their world, from the marketplace to the heavens. The Ziggurat wasn't just in the city. It was the city, tying every life to its bricks. You turn away, the night air soft, and feel its weight, not just the mud and straw, but the dreams it held together, keeping Uruk's pulse steady under the stars. You're still in Uruk, the Ziggurat silhouette, now a hulking shadow against the starlit sky. The city's pulse has slowed, merchants packing up, fires dimming, but the Ziggurat stands unmoved, its presence as heavy as the night air. You've seen it as a cosmic map and a city hub, but now you're wondering about the nuts and bolts. How did the Babylonians pull this off with just clay and grit? You shuffle through the cooling dust, eyeing the structure's sloped walls, and realize it's a marvel of engineering. Brilliant, but not without its cracks. Literally. You're about to dive into the genius and gamble of building a tower to the gods. Mainstream history tells us ziggurats were engineering triumphs, constructed with mud bricks, reinforced by reeds and bitumen. The great ziggurat of Ur, for instance, used an estimated 7 million bricks, its core stabilized by woven reed mats, acting like ancient rebar. The sloped, stepped design distributed weight to prevent collapse, while bitumen sealed the exterior against floods. These weren't thrown together. Builders used precise measurements, likely based on Babylonian base 60 math, to ensure stability. It was a community effort, with thousands of laborers, paid in grain or beer, working years, sometimes decades, to finish one. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some ziggurats had weep holes in their walls, small gaps to let moisture escape and prevent brick rot. It's like the ancients invented breathable Gore-Tex for architecture. Historians still argue whether these weep holes were standard or a regional quirk. The evidence is patchy. Crumbled ruins don't exactly scream blueprint, so scholars bicker over whether every ziggurat had this trick or just the fancy ones. You pause near the base, running your hand over a brick, its surface rough but precise. The ziggurat's lower tier is a beast, wider than a city block, built to shrug off Mesopotamia's floods and quakes. You picture workers hauling clay from the river, mixing it with straw, under a sun that could fry an egg on your sandal. The process was brutal. Mold, dry, stack, repeat. Yet the precision's unreal. Each tier shrinks perfectly, the angles calculated to keep the whole thing from toppling. Joke 1. Think the architect ever yelled, "Measure twice, pray once." Or was that just the vibe? But brilliance had flaws. Mud bricks, even baked ones, erode over time. You spot cracks snaking up the wall, faint but telling. Floods, winds, and neglect could turn a ziggurat into a sad sand pile if maintenance slacked. Bitumen helped, but it wasn't magic. Workers had to patch constantly. You smirk, imagining a Mesopotamian HOA nagging about upkeep. The core's reed mats were a stroke of genius, flexing during tremors, but they rotted if water seeped in. It's a reminder. Even divine projects had deadlines and budget fights. You wander along the base, dodging a pile of broken bricks. Rejects, probably from a kiln misfire. The ziggurat's upper tiers are still under construction, ramps crawling with workers hauling baskets. The logistics boggle you. No cranes, no trucks, just muscle and math. Some scholars say ramps were temporary, made of packed earth, then dismantled. Others think permanent ramps snaked inside. Either way, it was a slog. Joke 2. Think they had a Brick Hauler of the Month award, or just extra beer rations. The ziggurat's resilience came from community, not just engineering. Entire families pitched in, kids fetching straw, elders mixing clay. It was faith in action, every brick a bet on the God's goodwill. But the flaws lingered. A bad flood could undermine the base. A lazy repair could doom a tier. You step back, the ziggurat's shadow swallowing you, and feel its paradox. A tower built to last forever, yet fragile as the clay it's made of. For now, it stands, a testament to human cunning and the nerve to build something even the gods might envy. You're back in Uruk, the ziggurat's dark silhouette, now a silent giant under a sky thick with stars. The city's gone quiet, save for the occasional dog bark or a distant lute's twang. You've seen this tower as a cosmic blueprint, a city anchor, and an engineering gamble. But now it feels like something else, a flex in a high-stakes game between rival cities. You wander through the cooling dust, past shuttered stalls, and sense the ziggurat's not just about gods. It's about pride, power, and outdoing the neighbors. Uruk's tower screams, "We're the favorite." But you're curious how far that brag carried in ancient Mesopotamia. Mainstream history tells us ziggurats were status symbols, with cities like Babylon, and Nippur building bigger and better to claim divine favor. The Itemenanki in Babylon, possibly 90 meters tall, was a deliberate flex, meant to dwarf rivals like Ur's Ziggurat. These weren't just temples, they were billboards of prestige, signaling a city's wealth, piety, and God-given clout. Kings poured resources into them, knowing a towering ziggurat could lure traders, settlers, and the gods' goodwill, while making rival cities jealous enough to choke on their barley beer. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some cuneiform texts brag about ziggurat renovations, with kings claiming they rebuilt crumbling towers to outshine their predecessors. It's like ancient campaign ads etched in clay. Vote for me. I fixed Inanna's penthouse. Historians still argue whether these rebuilds were practical. Mud bricks erode fast, or pure propaganda to boost a king's ego. The tablets are vague, leaving scholars to debate if it was devotion or just a Mesopotamian midlife crisis. You pause near the ziggurat's base, its bricks glowing faintly under moonlight. Uruk's tower is impressive, but you imagine Babylon's Etemenanki, rumored to have 7 colored tiers, each glinting like a divine rainbow. It's not just architecture, it's a challenge. Cities competed like kids in a sandcastle contest, piling bricks higher to prove their gods love them best. You smirk, picturing Ur's king squinting at Babylon's ziggurat and muttering, "Ours needs more stairs." Joke 1. Think they had a tallest ziggurat pageant, or just threw shade in cuneiform. This rivalry wasn't just pride, it was survival. A bigger ziggurat drew more pilgrims, fattening the city's coffers with offerings and trade. You picture caravans rolling in, their donkeys laden with spices, all because Uruk's tower screamed VIP status. But it came at a cost. Building taller meant more workers, more clay, more everything. Some cities bankrupted themselves, chasing divine bragging rights. Their ziggurats half finished when funds dried up. You spot a cracked brick, a reminder that even the flashiest towers had to fight time and weather. You wander closer, the ziggurat's shadow cool on your skin. Its size feels personal now, like Uruk's daring you to question its rank. Rival cities didn't just build taller, they innovated. Nippur's ziggurat had a fancier shrine. Ur's had slicker stairways. It was a divine arms race, each city tweaking designs to one-up the others. Joke 2. Think they sent spies to steal ziggurat blueprints, or just prayed for better architects. The truth is, this competition drove progress, pushing Babylonian engineering to new heights, literally. As you step back, you notice a kid nearby, asleep against a stall, clutching a clay toy shaped like a ziggurat. It's cute, but telling. Even kids knew these towers defined their world. Uruk's ziggurat wasn't just a local landmark. It was a jab at every rival city, a claim to cosmic supremacy. But rivalries fade. Babylon rose, Uruk waned, and ziggurats became pawns in bigger empires. For now, though, Uruk's tower stands tall, its bricks whispering of a time when height meant power, and every city wanted to touch the gods first. You're still in Uruk, the ziggurat now a ghostly outline against a sky fading into dawn. The city's asleep, its streets empty, except for the soft scuff of your sandals and a stray cat slinking past. You've seen this tower as a divine bridge, a city's heartbeat, a rival's taunt, but now it feels different, fragile, like a memory crumbling under time's weight. You circle its base one last time, the air cool and heavy with dew, and sense the ziggurat's story winding down. Empires rise, gods fade, and even these mighty towers return to dust. You're ready to trace their fall, to see how Uruk's pride became a whisper in the desert. Mainstream history tells us ziggurats declined as Mesopotamian empires fell, starting around 1000 BCE. Conquests by Assyrians, Persians, and later Alexander the Great shifted power, leaving ziggurats neglected or repurposed. Babylon's Etemenanki, once a marvel, was reduced to rubble by the time Roman travelers saw it, its bricks scavenged or eroded by floods. The gods they honored, Marduk, Inanna, lost clout as new religions, like Zoroastrianism and later Christianity, reshaped the region. Ziggurats, built to last forever, couldn't outrun time or human ambition. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some ziggurats were recycled by later rulers, their bricks reused for forts or palaces, like ancient Lego sets. Imagine a Persian governor shrugging, "Nice temple, but I need a wall." Historians still argue whether this was pragmatic recycling or deliberate erasure of Babylonian culture. The evidence is scattered. Ruins don't come with motive, but it's clear ziggurats lost their sacred mojo as new powers redrew the map. You pause, touching a weathered brick, its edges soft from centuries of wind. Uruk's ziggurat still stands, but you picture it years from now, its tiers slumping, its colors gone. The priests are long dead, their chants forgotten, their clay tablets buried under sand. You smirk, imagining a future archaeologist puzzling over a shard, probably guessing wrong about its purpose. Joke 1. Think they'll call it a giant picnic platform, or just blame aliens? The truth is, ziggurats faded because their world did. Cities emptied, rivers shifted, and gods stopped answering. You wander the base, the dawn light revealing cracks you missed before. Floods, quakes, and neglect were always the ziggurat's enemies, but conquest sealed its fate. When Babylon fell to Cyrus the Great in 539 BCE, ziggurats became relics, their shrines looted or left to rot. You picture soldiers camping in the shadow of Itemenanki, clueless about its cosmic blueprint, using its stairs for target practice. The community that built these towers, laborers, scribes, kids with clay toys, scattered, their faith no match for empires with sharper swords. Yet, there's beauty in the ruin. You step back, the ziggurat's silhouette softening in the morning haze. It's not just a pile of mud. It's a story of people who dared to touch the heavens, even if their bricks couldn't hold forever. Joke 2. Think the gods sent a memo like, "Nice try," but we're moving to a cloud-based system. The ziggurat's legacy lives in fragments, tablets, ruins, even the math we use to tell time. You feel a pang knowing Uruk's buzz, its markets and music, is gone, but this tower still speaks if you listen. Now, let's slow down. Let the world grow quiet. Picture yourself sitting by Uruk's ziggurat, the dawn wrapping you in soft gold. The city's gone, its voice is dust, but the tower's shadow feels like a gentle hand guiding you to rest. You don't need to climb its stairs or decode its stars. Just breathe. Let the weight of centuries settle like a warm blanket. These bricks held dreams, fears, a whole people's hope. Now they're yours to carry softly into sleep. Imagine the desert stretching wide, the Tigris murmuring nearby, its ripples a lullaby older than time. You're safe here, in the echo of a world that dared to build high. Close your eyes, let the ziggurat fade, its story tucked in your heart. Drift now to a place where gods still whisper and towers touch the stars.